What's good, YouTube? It's Rick of the Fox Kid here, and I actually have a deck profile for a deck that's not Lightsworn or Chaos Dragon. Yeah, I actually took the Rat Toolbox deck I mentioned several months ago, back like shortly after the regional that happened. Uh, yeah, so I finally put that back together, and I think it ended up being pretty decent. The reason this one was delayed for so long, because I did mention it several months back, is that I actually did record the video for it, but for whatever reason it didn't want to upload. So I just decided again. I recorded it twice, and both times it decided not to upload. So I just said screw it, I'll just do it some other time, and then I just put it off for a while. Uh, but yeah, this time I put it back together, and yeah, let's just get into it. It's a very interesting deck. I got the idea from a friend of mine from college. One of his friends and teammates built the idea, and I liked it because it reminded me of Warrior Toolbox, which was my first competitive deck. So I just decided, hey, I might be interested in doing something like this. I think my version ended up being a little different from his because just like differences in formats and personal preference. So yeah, the deck's very stun oriented. It runs a relatively low monster count, only 13. Focuses on slowly picking away at your opponent while stopping most of what they're doing, and just toolboxing with Giant Rat and just getting whatever you need at the time. So that's how it goes, and I guess we'll get into it. So the monsters are 3 Giant Rat. Key card of the deck searches just about anything in the deck. There's only one monster that it can't grab, so pretty much Giant Rat is fair game for whatever monster you need at the time. 2-card Trooper, it's beat down card, draw power, and just thins your deck. So it's a nice card to have. There have been instances where I actually didn't mill 3 with Card Trooper, like if I just need a little small power and I don't want to mill too much, because the deck doesn't really mill a lot or doesn't want to. Or if I just needed to get under something that, like, if I couldn't do it with 1900, if I could do it with like 1500 or 900 or whatever. It's not very often that I do it, but there are situations where you don't always want to mill 3 with Card Trooper, but they're rare. This next card is actually an idea I got from another one of my friends at college, because he saw me play the deck, and then he was like, yeah, I'm gonna build that deck because, you know, net decking, woo. But he built a more warrior oriented version with Rhoda and everything, and he ran 2 Elemental Hero Wildheart, and I liked that idea a lot. I originally didn't run Wildheart. I did have him in my Warrior Toolbox deck from a long time ago, but I didn't put him in the Rat version, I'm not entirely sure why. I guess he just slipped my mind. Just Wildheart is really good because just the fact that he gets around trap cards. So, and he's searchable by Giant Rat, so he's an MVP in the deck, just because it, against a deck that's like trying to hit you with their back row, he kind of says, yeah, no, lol. And there's another card in the deck that really makes Wildheart an absolute nightmare to try and deal with, and I'm just going to get into that one later. So, yeah. 2 Elemental Hero Wildheart. It was a really awesome idea, and I liked it a lot, so I just threw it in. 2 Fossil Dyna, just anti-special summoning, all that crap. 2 Injection Fairy Lily. This one actually takes, like, she takes some skill to use, because you can't just summon her and blindly pay the 2,000 every time, because next thing you know, if you do that, next thing you know, your life points are going to be gone. Injection Fairy Lily, the way I play her is I summon her, I'll like poke with her, like I'll use her to attack directly, and then I'll use her effect if I have to, or if it benefits me in some way. Like if if my opponent attacks the Fairy Lily, then obviously, yeah, I'm going to do it. Unless there's the occasion where it would actually be beneficial that I let the Fairy Lily die. But it's just, you can't just run around blindly just throwing away life points to boost it to 3,400. You actually have to use her conservatively. Which is also why I don't run 3 of her, just because in the late game she does become dead, just because you're less likely to have 2,000 life points to spare. And so, yeah. Grand Mole, he's obvious. Grand Mole's just amazing. Just bounce everything. He constantly comes back. It's hard to kill him. He just deals with anything. Grand Mole's freaking amazing. It's just hard to do anything to mess with him. So yeah. And Thunder King is the one. Thunder King Riley is the one card that Giant Rat can't search. I keep him here just he's kind of a personal tech, I guess. He's just a good card all around. You summon him, he stops searching. He can negate a special summon. He's got 1900 attack. What's not to like about him? So yeah, just one tech Thunder King. Just why not? And that's the monster lineup. It's a very simple monster lineup. I think there's like maybe 6 different monsters. Just the Giant Rats, the Card Trooper, Wild Heart, Fossil Dino Fairly. So there's 7 different monsters, and it's only 13 monsters total. It's really simple lineup, and it gets the job done. You don't want to be too complex with the deck. So spell cards, there's 2 creature swap, just because it combos with Giant Rat. You can summon the rat, use creature swap, take your opponent's monster, run into the rat, and then search again and attack, and just the classic combo. You can summon Card Trooper and then do creature swap. Then you won't get the draw off of Card Trooper, but you will get your opponent's monster. An interesting one, if you have Grand Mole and another monster on the board, you can play creature swap, give your opponent the other monster, and then take one of their monsters. Then when you use Grand Mole and you attack into your own monster that you just gave to your opponent, you can bounce them both back to your hand. So you will keep all your monsters, and then your opponent will just have nothing. Not as good of a combo as the other ones I mentioned, but it is interesting. And just stuff like that. Creature Swap's a decent card. I actually ended up putting this in later. I wasn't sure whether or not I wanted to use it. I'm testing it for now. It can't be too bad. Dark Hole, Heavy Storm, Monster Reborn, Trio of broken shit, and 2 MST. Was originally running 3, cut it down to 2 for space, and I don't want to draw too many MSTs. It's just, in the past, triple MST has been a problem for me. 2-pot of Duality. The deck doesn't rely on special summoning, so obviously Duality is good for thinning and consistency. And then I also, this is probably the interesting one, is 1 Terraforming and 2 Seal of Orichalcos. And that's because, like they said, the deck doesn't really special summon much, and it doesn't use the extra deck a lot. So, like, the instances where I use the extra deck in this deck are incredibly rare. And so for that, the Seal of Orichalcos, its drawbacks aren't an incredibly big deal, and it boosts all your monsters by 500 attack, and that is actually very significant, because it turns Giant Rat into a 1900 floater, makes Thunder King 2400, it makes Card Trooper potentially 2400, and the kicker is that it makes Wild Heart a 2000 attack beat stick that is unaffected by trap cards. And that makes Wild Heart pretty frightening, in my opinion. Just if your opponent had a 2000 attack monster and you couldn't use trap cards like Mirror Force and Torrential and Deep Prison to get rid of it, wouldn't you be frightened? I'd be frightened. And why, like, another question you might ask is why 2 Seal of Orichalcos when you can only activate it once per duel? That's just to increase the chances of getting it. And just because Seal of Orichalcos, in my opinion, is very important to this deck, so it's good to draw it whenever you can. So just having multiples is a good idea, and then just the other one becomes useless. There's really not much you can do about that. And Terraforming is just for deck thinning, also because my 3rd copy of the Seal of Orichalcos is in a different deck. So yeah, that's why I run the Terraforming. I was originally trying another method, which is, again, the same friend that gave me the idea for Wild Heart gave me this idea, was to run 1 Seal of Orichalcos and 2 Terraforming, because then you could use the Terraforming, search the 1 copy of the Seal of Orichalcos, and then the other Terraforming you could use as bait, like just set in the back row and hope your opponent MSTs or Heavy Storms it. The reason I'm not doing that now is because if, on the off chance, I mill the 1 copy of the Seal with Card Trooper, with the 2nd Seal, I can still draw that one and activate it. Whereas if I were doing 2 Terraforming and 1 Seal, if I mill the Terraforming, that's not a big deal. But if I mill the Seal, then both of the Terraformings become dead. So I'd rather just run 2 Seal, 1 Terraforming. That's just me. Either way works, I guess. It's just I don't want to have that situation where I mill the Seal off of the Card Trooper and then I can't use it, because the Seal is very good in this deck. And traps. Trap lineup is big. It's 15, and that's big by today's standards from what I can remember. It's because, I mean, it's not, I mean, Dino Rabbit and Macro Rover, that's a pretty big back row, but it's still fairly big, in my opinion. It's pretty simple, actually. It's just, there's the basic staples, you know, like 2 Bottomless, 2D Prison, 2 Mirror Force. I like Mirror Force. I don't know why everybody else is saying Mirror Force is a bad card and nobody uses it. I mean, I'd argue, yeah, it's not as good as Deep Prison, because Deep Prison actually banishes, so it's harder to deal with. But Mirror Force is not bad. It's just, people underestimate the potential that Mirror Force has, just because if you're facing down a field of monsters and they attack and you flip Mirror Force, that's really bad for them. I don't see a problem with Mirror Force. I don't know why everybody else does. And it might just be lack of main deck space, just with all the staple trap cards there are, that Mirror Force is just lower on the list of what to throw in. I personally use Mirror Force over Compulse. I do. I don't know. It's just, I don't know why people don't use Mirror Force. I like it. And then Solemn Brigade. And 2 Torrential, 2 Starlight Road. With the amount of back row you run, it's nice to have. And also, it's a good way to protect the seal if they somehow manage to have enough resources to get it off the field. I'm pretty sure you can still activate Starlight Road with the seal in play. You just won't be able to summon Stardust Dragon, and to me, that's not an incredibly big deal. Just as long as you negate the Stardust is just a bonus, and so it's like if you have the seal, then Starlight Road just becomes the huge revolution is over. So I don't see an incredibly big deal with it. So yeah. And then the last 2 cards, Call of the Haunted, 2 of them. I like Call of the Haunted just because not only is it revival for like the low monster count the deck has, but it's also very good with comboing, because just like with the monsters you can bring back, it's like you can respond to something your opponent does with Call of the Haunted. So, say they activate MST and target your face down call, or they activate Heavy Storm, you can chain Call of the Haunted, bring back Card Trooper. It'll the MST will be destroyed, or the MST will, or Heavy Storm will destroy the Card Trooper, and then you can draw 1 card. Or it'll destroy Call to destroy Card Trooper. Or you can use Call the Haunted, bring back Wild Heart. Call will get destroyed, and Wild Heart will stay because he's not unaffected by the effects of trap cards. Or if your opponent activates a search card, or say Pot of Duality or whatever, you can activate Call of the Haunted, bring back Thunder King, and now they can't use the effect because Thunder King prevents you from adding cards from your deck to your hand except by drawing them. And then a personal favorite of mine, if your opponent activates a card that lets them special summon, say like Monster Reborn or all that stuff, you activate Call of the Haunted, bring back Fossil Dyna, and now they can't. And that is one of my favorite things to do. It's just so funny seeing people's reactions when they're like, oh, okay, I activate Monster Reborn, okay, I flip Call of the Hunter and bring back Fossil Dino, Monster Reborn resolves without effect, and they're like, what the crap? It's Call of the Haunted is just so fun to use, just because it's good for revival, and it's good just to chain to. Just because there's usually a situation where you can use Call of the Haunted, just in response to something, so that's why I like Call of the Haunted. And yeah, that's the main deck. Like I said, the extra deck isn't really much, so I didn't really put a lot of focus on it. The only difference between that and a regular extra deck that I can think of would be the 2 Stardust Dragon for Starlight Road, but other than that, I didn't really think about putting much. You could use Soul of Silver Mountain, which is something I used when I first tried this deck with my friend Tempest CFV. He gave me the idea for that, and it's just because Soul of Silver Mountain, it is a good way to get monsters back from your graveyard, but I don't think it's worth the resources. Frankly, I'd rather just have the monsters I use to summon Silver Mountain instead of Silver Mountain itself. And also, just because with the Seal of Orichalcos and how easy it is to get it out of the deck, really, you don't use the extra deck a lot at all. So I don't see much of a point in the extra deck. I mean, I would still have an extra deck. It's just, it'd be a standard extra deck, so I didn't bother putting it together. And yeah. So, yeah, that's all there is to the deck. Future deck profiles, I do have the pieces for Insector, so I might put that together, as much as I'm not a major fan of the deck, or at least last format's version of it, where it was stupidly derpy. It's better now, like, it's more enjoyable in my opinion. I'm still not the biggest fan of it. I do have a Poor Man's Frog Monarch deck put together. By Poor Man's, I mean I don't have every Monarch, so I substitute with like Zaborg and like Mobius and all that crap. I could do that. That one's pretty fun too. It's just, I've got a bunch of means to build several different decks, so if I just feel like putting one together, I can. It's just, I have 3 put together right now. It's that Rat deck, Lightsworn, and then I actually managed to get enough pieces to build Chaos Dragon separately. So those are the 3 I have put together. So I decided, well, I have the Rat deck together, so I might as well just do a deck profile on it. Other than that, yeah, that's all there is to it right now. Probably do a prediction on the ban list around end of January, beginning of February, so a few weeks before the list actually comes out. And yeah, one deck profile or one deck idea I really want to make after Cosmo Blazer comes out, which I probably won't be able to make it as a sneak preview, but I'm still going to try and get the pieces for it, is the Noble Knights, because that was an idea I actually just got on a whim a few weeks ago. It's just like, I feel like building the Noble Knights, but they don't have a lot of support, so I feel it would be difficult. So I was like, I'll see what would happen if support comes out for them later, and then lo and behold, they announce that new Noble Knight, like Modart or something, that pretty much makes the deck very playable. So I was just thinking, okay, I guess I can make the Noble Knights now. So if I get the pieces for that, I'll try and throw that together. I guess now that I have Lightsworn and Chaos Dragon done, or at least until Judgment of the Light, which is after Lord of the Tachyon Galaxy, yeah, when depending on what the support is in that, I'll definitely need to work on my Lightsworn deck more when that set comes out, or just any of my light decks in general. So until then, until that happens, I guess my next project is the Noble Knights, just to get the pieces for that and make the deck. Because other than that, all my other decks are complete. There's really not much more I can do to it. So, except for like adjusting it to the new formats. But yeah, that's all there is right now. So thanks for watching, YouTube. We'll see you next time.